I never imagined my family would demand I sell my home to pay off my sister's $260,000 debt. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The sun was barely rising, casting a dull light through the kitchen window. The world felt muted. I stood there, heart racing, hands trembling, as my family gathered in hushed tones around the dining table. Their faces were shadows, twisted with desperation. Mom's hand shook as she pushed a paper towards me. The words danced on the page, taunting me, pulling at my chest. "We have to do this," she cried, the tears streaming down her cheeks like a broken dam. I had never seen her so fragile. My little sister, Lily, sat in the corner, her eyes red and puffy. She looked like a ghost. She was the reason we were in this nightmare. 260,000. I could feel the weight of the numbers pressing down on my shoulders. I thought about our house, our memories buried within its walls. The laughter in the living room. The smell of Mom's cookies wafting through the air. The thought of losing it shattered something deep inside me. My dad stood there, eyes downcast, the silence between us thick enough to cut. "Your sister made a mistake," he mumbled. I wanted to scream. How could he say that? The heartache of our family crumbling felt unbearable. I thought about all the sacrifices we'd made, the birthdays missed, the love lost. They wanted me to give up my home, my sanctuary, to save her. Suddenly, Lily broke the silence. "It's my fault. I can fix this." The desperation in her voice echoed in my mind. She was only 20, a child playing in a world of adult choices. The facade she had built crumbled before us, and I felt the room spinning as if the ground had shifted beneath my feet. What could I do? Should I fight for what was mine? The lump in my throat turned solid as I struggled to breathe. I glanced around the room, searching for support. But all I found were silent daggers of judgment in their eyes, accusing me of being selfish. The tension hung in the air like dark storm clouds, ready to burst. Panic flared in my chest, squeezing tighter. I took a breath, but it felt heavy like smoke filling my lungs. What happens next? Can I really do this? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed felt like a relentless storm, each moment filled with unease and uncertainty. The house, once a comforting cocoon, became a haunted shell of what it used to be. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a reminder of the impending loss, echoing loudly in my mind. Meals were consumed in fractured silence, our conversations reduced to whispers within the confines of the kitchen. We were together, yet miles apart, each of us nursing our own heartaches. I kept finding myself standing outside in the backyard, staring at the old oak tree that had witnessed every joy and sorrow of our lives. Its roots ran deep, much like our family's history. I recalled summers spent under its branches, the laughter of my sisters mingling with the rustle of the leaves. Now it felt like an omen, a symbol of everything we stood to lose. One evening, while I absorbed the quiet fading light, Mom joined me. Her presence was like a weight, not heavier than her sorrow but a reminder of our shared grief. "I never wanted this for our family," she whispered, her voice tremulous. "I don't either," I responded, feeling an ache deepened by understanding. "But Mom, I can't just let this happen." She nodded, looking down at her hands. "I know. But we don't have many options," she admitted, revealing the desperation lodged inside her chest. It was that phrasey options that gnawed at me. What if there was a different path? I began to explore other resources, desperately scrolling through websites and making calls late into the night, my heart beating a frantic rhythm of hope and fear. A part of me clung to the dream of saving our home, while another part battled with the fear of the storm ahead. One afternoon, as I sat in a coffee shop nursing my third cup of cold brew, my phone rang, piercing through my thoughts. The voice on the other end belonged to a financial consultant who had agreed to meet with me. "I think I can help you navigate this," she said, a flicker of optimism stirring inside me. "But we need to look at all your options, starting with a plan to negotiate your sister's debts." The words felt like an anchor amidst the chaos. For the first time in days, I found a sliver of hope. We arranged to meet the next day, and the prospect of exploring a different avenue rekindled something bright within me as I left the coffee shop. My heart felt lighter. Yet, when I returned home, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Lily sat on the living room floor, surrounded by crumpled letters and unopened bills, her face contorted in distress. My heart sank at the sight. She looked so small, lost amidst the wreckage of her choices. "What are we going to do?" she asked, her voice a whisper of despair. In that moment I glimpsed not just her pain but my own, mingled with the urgency of her question. "We're going to find a way," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "But we need to start from here, Lily. You have to take responsibility. Let's face this together." She looked up, the corners of her lips trembling, but there was a hint of resolve in her gaze. "I'll do whatever it takes," she said, the flicker of determination signaling the first glimmers of light amidst the despair. But just as hope began to flicker in the darkest corners of my heart, my phone buzzed in my pocket. The screen lit up with my father's name. A knot of dread tightening in my stomach. He rarely called unless something was wrong. I braced myself and answered. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, his voice low and shaky. I could hear Mom's soft sobs in the background. "It's about the debt." "And Lily." My breath hitched as I waited for the inevitable revelation, bracing myself for yet another blow that could change everything. My fingers clenched around the phone, my heart racing faster with every word. "The loan company." He hesitated. "They're threatening to foreclose on your mother's house, too, because of an unpaid bill." A new wave of panic surged through me, crashing over the small flame of hope I just rekindled. As the world around me slipped into chaos, I realized this fight was far from over. I was standing at the precipice, and the depths of despair were ready to pull me under. Every crevice of my mind crackled with confusion as I hung up the phone, my father's words still echoing like a haunting refrain. The walls of our home felt like they were closing in, stifling my breath, suffocating the fleeting hope I had just begun to grasp. "Mom!" I shouted, my voice barren of calmness. Lily, still on the floor, looked up with wide eyes. "What's wrong?" I didn't answer as I rushed into the kitchen, where I found Mom with her head buried in her hands, tears freely cascading down her cheeks. "Why didn't you tell us?" I asked, my voice muffled by rising anger and heartbreak. "It's just I thought I could handle it," she mumbled, wiping the tears away with trembling fingers. "I didn't want to burden you." "Not telling us is what burdens us. We can't fix this if we don't know." A wave of frustration surged through me, colliding with my impulse to comfort. I wanted to shake her, to draw out the truth lurking behind her fearful eyes. For a moment the room was steeped in silence, broken only by the soft sound of Mom's quiet sobs. I had to fight to keep my composure because deep down I understood her fear. This house, our home, was not just a structure. It was the very essence of our family, a collection of memories and hopes interwoven within its walls. Yet here we were, standing at the brink of losing it. Without warning, Lily broke the silence. "We can work things out. We have to talk to the company. There must be something we can do." Her resolve ignited a small flame of determination inside me. Mom looked up at us, her eyes red but glinting with something I hadn't seen in a while, a flicker of defiance. "If only it were that simple," she said softly, "but they want their money now." "Then we'll find another way," I said, an idea igniting an insatiable need for action. "We could set up a fundraiser, or maybe we can sell some of the furniture we don't need. There's got to be something we can do." Lily nodded, biting her lower lip. "We'll start tomorrow. I can call some friends and see if they'll help organize. Maybe a bake sale or something." The thought made me smile amidst the turmoil. I could practically see kinship weaving itself between us, stitching up the wounds of despair with each tentative idea we tossed around. But just as hope twinkled its fragile light, my sister's hesitation pulled me back into the clutches of anxiety. "But what if we can't raise enough?" The uncertainty clouded the moment, squeezing my chest tight. "We'll take it one day at a time," I reassured her, squeezing her shoulder. "And we won't give up." That night, as I lay in bed, sleep eluded me. Instead, I stared at the ceiling, tracing the outlines of shadows that danced under the light of the moon filtering through the curtains. It was a comfort that felt increasingly foreign. All the memories, the laughter, the dinners, the holidays whirled around my mind like leaves caught in a storm. What would we do if we lost it all? Just then, a sudden noise pulled me from my thoughts, an encroaching sound from downstairs. I climbed out of bed and made my way to the stairs, creeping down cautiously so as not to wake the others. Strange echoes bounced off the walls, and an unfamiliar voice drifted through the silence, crackling with urgency. Peering around the corner, I saw my father standing in the dim light of the foyer, his frame tense and rigid. Across from him was a shadowy figure I couldn't quite make out, but a pit began to form in my stomach. "It's too late for that now, John," the stranger snapped, their voice sharp. "You need to make a decision or it will be taken from you." The mention of taking made my heart race, fear and anger colliding within me. My father's pained expression rippled through the dark. "I'm trying to do what's best for my family," he rasped, desperation lacing his tone. I wanted to step in, to confront this unknown adversary, but my body felt frozen in place, held by a mix of anxiety and dread. As I watched the scene unfold, I realized that the fate of our family hung precariously on a thread, and every decision seemed poised to carve new paths we were unprepared to traverse. "Maybe the house isn't worth the trouble," the stranger mused, brutal pragmatism drenching their words. "You have to think about your own life." To end that moment, clarity struck with devastating intensity. This wasn't just about money. This was about the unraveling of our family, the tearing apart of the very fabric that held us together. I couldn't stand by any longer. I had to act, to confront this reality before it swallowed us whole. Just as I finally made the decision to step forward, my phone vibrated in my pocket, a sharp intrusion in the heavy air. Glancing down, I saw the name displayed on the screen, the financial consultant. With hands shaking and my heart pounding like a war drum, I answered, desperate to ride the last wave of hope I had clung to. "Hello? I'm so sorry to call so late," the woman said, urgency lacing her voice. "I have something important. You need to come in tomorrow. It's about an option I haven't mentioned yet." The finality of her words sent adrenaline racing through me. As I stood in that shadowy hallway, uncertainty surged within. Another path might open, but what lay at the end? Would it lead us back to safety, or push us further into the abyss? The weight of the unknown pressed down on me like a lead blanket, thickening the air as I prepared to leap forward into the tumultuous day that awaited. I had to find out for all of us. The sun broke through the horizon, painting the world outside my window in a golden hue that felt too bright for the heaviness resting in my chest. I awoke tangled in sheets of confusion, unsure of what the day might bring. I lay there for a moment, squinting at the sliver of sunlight peeking in, a stark reminder that another day had arrived, replete with its own challenges. I could hear Lily bustling about in the kitchen, the gentle clinking of dishes providing a hint of normalcy amidst the chaos. I pulled on a sweater, taking a deep breath as I prepared to face the day. Breakfast was filled with uneasy glances and fragmented conversations, each soft utterance laden with the unspeakable fears that hovered like storm clouds above us. "Maybe we could ask Aunt Clara for some help," Lily suggested, stirring her cereal with a fervor that belied her apprehension. I couldn't help but admire her resilience. Even as uncertainty clouded the edges of her determination, Mom remained quiet, her hands wrapped around a steaming mug, the warmth clearly inadequate to chase away the chill that had settled in our home. I noticed her gaze often drifting to the window, lost in a world far beyond the frame, the weight of her burdens palpable in the silence. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever decision lay ahead hinged on her strength, and right now, that felt like a flickering candle on the verge of extinguishing. "Let's go for a walk after breakfast," I suggested, and to my surprise Mom nodded. Perhaps the fresh air would help clear our minds and strengthen our spirits, even if just a little. The air was crisp, a gentle reminder that life continued in its cycles, oblivious to our turmoil. We walked side by side, our breaths visible in the morning chill, searching for words that didn't seem to come. My mind raced with possibilities as we turned down the block, and just then, an unexpected sight caught my eye. Mrs. Larson, the elderly widow from next door, was attempting to wrestle her trash cans down the driveway. "Can we help you with that?" I called out, unable to ignore the persistent twinge of empathy that had begun to blossom within me. "Oh dear, you're too kind," she smiled, her voice cracking. "These silly things just get heavier every year." As we helped her shuffle the cans into place, it struck me how similar our situations felt. Mrs. Larson seemed so fragile, Yet she radiated a warmth that enveloped us. She thanked us profusely, her gratitude circulating between us like some unspoken bond formed in the shared act of kindness. My heart swelled as I recalled that even among hardship, gestures like this could weave threads of connection that made the weight a little lighter. Life has a way of testing us, she said, her eyes twinkling as she leaned heavily on her cane. But you'll find a way. You always do, dear. In that moment, her words wrapped around me like a comforting embrace. A flicker of hope ignited just as my own seemed close to flickering out. The rest of the day passed in a blur of phone calls and meetings. The financial consultant was waiting for me in her office with a plethora of numbers and options at her disposal. But my apprehension grew as I crossed the threshold into her domain. Each statistic was a chilling reminder of the stakes we faced. Each projection served as a haunting ghost lingering over us. Before we begin, she said, pulling out a document that appeared to tower above all the others, I need you to understand how serious the situation is. Her piercing gaze cut through the pretense of professionalism. We have some urgent decisions to make, and I want you to think deeply about what you're willing to risk. With every word, the pit in my stomach deepened. My phone buzzed, drawing me from her scripted monologue. The name lit up the screen, sending a shiver through me. It was Mom. I'll be right back, I muttered, stepping out into the hallway. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as I answered, my heart in my throat. Can you come home? Her voice wavered, the emotional weight crashing against me like a tidal wave. Something's happened. It's Lily. Mama, what's wrong? I don't know exactly. But she's not here. A dread settled over me, cold and invasive, a frigid hand squeezing my chest. What do you mean she's not there? Where is she? I could feel panic boiling over, a fear clawing at my insides. She left with a friend. She didn't tell me where, Mom whispered, a tremor underscoring her words. The anxiety I'd managed to keep at bay suddenly surged back to the forefront. My mind raced, flooding with what-ifs. What if Lily was in trouble? What if she was doing something reckless? I could feel fraying threads of control slipping through my fingers as I fought to hold on to whatever semblance of normalcy still existed. Stay calm, I said, my voice shaky despite my best intentions. I'll come home. We'll talk to her. Everything will be okay. But in the pit of my stomach, I felt a tremor of foreboding. With shaking hands and a pounding heart, I gripped my phone tightly. I stepped back into the financial consultant's office, but the numbers and projections blurred before my eyes. There was no choosing between saving the house and losing my sister to whatever darkness lurked out there. I didn't just have to protect our home but our family too. I didn't know how this would end, but a new reckoning was beginning, and I was left to wonder if it was all too late. The shadows in the living room seemed to stretch longer in my absence, wrapping around corners and pooling beneath furniture as I entered our home. The silence was deafening. I could feel a charged tension hanging in the air, thick and suffocating, every tick of the clock amplifying my dread. Where is she? I demanded as I moved past Mom, who was seated on the edge of the couch, her face pale. I searched the house, half hoping to see the vibrant mess that was Lily, her shoes cast aside, her music blaring from her room, but found nothing. My stomach twisted with worry as her absence felt like an echo. The laughter and joy that usually filled these walls now replaced by a palpable emptiness. She just left with Sarah, Mom whispered, her voice barely a whisper. I thought it was just for a little while. My mind raced back to our walk, to Mrs. Larson's words about testing times. But this felt different. This wasn't just a test, it was a fracture. A painful reminder that vulnerability could lead to places we'd rather not contemplate. Do you think she's being irresponsible? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. Did she say where they were going? Mom shook her head. She seemed so fine earlier. I didn't think her eyes shone with unshed tears, and I understood then that my mother was grappling with her own fears. She felt like she was losing both of us. Maybe she just needs some space, I offered, though it felt weak even as it left my lips. The darkness in the pit of my stomach told me it was more than that. I couldn't shake the worry that Lily might be drowning in something deeper than teenage angst. The next hour stretched on like eternity, each minute ticking by painfully slow as we attempted to distract ourselves with mundane chores. Mom busied herself in the kitchen, the rhythmic chopping of vegetables sounding sharp in the silence. I busied my mind with thoughts of Lily, flooding it with every possible scenario that could explain her sudden departure. I picked up the phone to call her, but the thought that she might not answer gnawed at my insides. After what felt like an eternity, the door's creak shifted my focus. We both froze, our hearts racing, but it was only the wind howling through the slightly ajar patio door. I wanted to will my sister to appear, to take away my fear with the familiar banter and bickering that characterized our sibling bond. Just as the weight of despair began to settle in again, a loud knock echoed from the door, jolting us both. My heart surged with hope as I raced to answer, ready to embrace my sister, ready to pull her back from the edge where I feared she might be teetering. But it wasn't her. Standing on our doorstep was a familiar figure, Sarah's disheveled hair catching the evening light. Her face was more serious than I'd ever seen, and I instantly felt the air thicken with an unspoken urgency. "I need to talk to you both," she said, her voice low but steady. "It's about Lily. What happened? Is she okay?" I blurted, a wild mix of hope and dread clawing at my insides. "Something's not right," Sarah replied, her gaze flickering past me at my mother, who had slowly approached the door. "She's with some other friends, but they've been, I don't know how to explain it. They're involved with some risky stuff and I couldn't just stand by." Racing thoughts consumed me. What kind of risky stuff? "I don't know all the details, but it feels like she's in over her head," Sarah confessed, her voice trembling slightly. "This morning she seemed so down, but we thought it was just... I didn't think she'd take it this far." Mom clutched her heart, sinking against the wall as if the news had physically knocked her down. "We have to find her," she whispered, her eyes glistening with concern. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, desperate to focus. "If she's in trouble, what do we do? Do you know where they might have gone?" "They went to a party downtown, I think near the old grocery store." "It's not a safe place," Sarah urged, her voice urgent yet strained. I was scared she might do something reckless. Fear crawled under my skin. "Reckless?" echoed, thoughts spinning wildly. Part of me wanted to trust that it would all be okay, that she was just having a moment of teenage rebellion. Yet the other louder side directed me to gather the fragments of hope I could find, the ones that led us back to her. "We need to go now," I said, adrenaline coursing through me. I turned to look back at Mom. She met my gaze, and in that moment, I saw the same fierce love mirrored there, the determination to protect our family still flickering, but far from extinguished before any more words could be spoken. We formed a small coalition of strength and hurt, ready to confront the reality that lay ahead. Leaving the house felt like stepping into the unknown, a fragile cocoon that we clasped tightly around us now stretched to its limits as we drove through the shadowed streets. The faint glow of streetlights illuminated the details that flitted past us in a blur, the worries, the fears, the stories left untold. I clenched the wheel, my pulse drumming a frantic rhythm. I could feel the weight of the world pressing down. The debts and decisions that loomed like grim specters in our lives could now be eclipsed completely by a sister lost to the chaos of adolescence. "Let's just find her. I can't lose her. I want," I said, my voice breaking as I pushed the pedal down harder. And in that moment, as we veered onto a darkened street where laughter spilled out like shards of glass from an open door, my heart thrummed with the stark realization that this night would change everything. Before I could allow myself to consider the implications, a new wave of foreboding washed over me. As we skidded to a halt in front of the party house, I saw the figure of a boy standing near the entrance, his face half-shadowed. It was then I recognized him, someone who had been a part of Lily's life, yet had always felt like a storm cloud threatening to engulf us all. He turned toward the car, eyes glistening like the edge of a knife, and suddenly my gut twisted with a new kind of fear. The road before us was paved with uncertainty, and as I stepped out, I could feel the everything we held dear teetering on a precipice, ready to fall. The atmosphere outside the party house hovered with tension. A mix of distorted laughter and distant voices vibrated around me, but it drowned in the oppressive weight of what lay ahead. I felt as though I were standing at the edge of a chasm, a cliff both breathtaking and terrifying. My heart raced, each beat echoing my fear for Lily, but underneath it all was something even deeper, a fear that this wasn't just about her. It was about us, the threads of our family that had begun to unravel. As I stepped out of the vehicle, Sarah and Mom followed hesitantly. The boy, Caleb, leaned against the porch railing with an aloofness that conveyed both confidence and menace. Something about his presence stirred the protective instinct within me, yet his casual demeanor told me everything I needed to know, that he was tangled in whatever chaos was ensnaring my sister. "Where's Lily?" I demanded as I crossed the distance between us, each word laced with urgency. Caleb's gaze flickered curiously, as if assessing the weight of what he would divulge. You could say she's busy. A smirk tugged at the corner of his lips, but it was a hollow thing devoid of real joy. Busy doing what? This is serious. I could feel the pitch of my voice rise, cracking under the strain of my anxiety. He shrugged nonchalantly. You know how it goes. Just having fun. No one wants to be a buzzkill. Besides, she's just experimenting with a little bit of everything. His tone suggested it was all innocent, a casual brush of youthful recklessness. But in my gut, I knew better. What do you mean everything? Mom spoke up, her voice strained as she stepped closer, her hands trembling. The ferocity of her worry was palpable, interlaced with the fierce love that had defined our family sunsets. Sweet yet fraying at the edges. Caleb's smirk faltered at her desperation, but he held his ground. Just a party vibe, you know? Nothing life-threatening. Just let her be. She'll come back when she's ready. Maybe she won't. We need to find her, I argued, my mind racing with images of her lost in a scene I could barely comprehend. The threats of drugs, of peer pressure, of choices made in the dark that lost their sparkle in the morning light. Caleb rolled his eyes, dismissing my plea. Look, if she's not here, she'll go to find her friends. They're everywhere in the neighborhood, I swear. If anything happens to her, my voice trailed off, the imagined consequences suffocating my thoughts. Listen, man. She made her choices. You just gotta let people do what they want, he replied, stepping back slightly, his nonchalance a thin veneer over a foundation of something else, discomfort, perhaps. I'm not saying it's smart, but stop. This is not about being smart. My voice broke like glass, the frustration pouring out of me. This is about saving her. She's your friend too. You could help us. Finally, the relaxed stance he held gave way to a flash of something cautious. Look, I know where they are, he admitted quietly, lowering his tone as if the confession could drown beneath the surface of the superficial party chaos. But you've got to promise to keep it quiet. I just don't want any trouble. Just take us to her, please, I almost pleaded, desperation clawing at my words. Caleb looked over his shoulder at the commotion pouring out of the house, a part of him drawn into the allure of the night, another part tethered by the gravity of the situation before us. He nodded jerkily and started to lead the way down the street, each step taking us deeper into the unknown. As we walked, a reluctant tension hung in the air, a suffocating fog of unspoken truths and regrets. I could see Sarah's face pale beside me, her worry for Lily mirroring my own, amplifying the dread I felt with each step. Mom followed closely behind, her soft breaths trembling between us like a fragile lifeline. With each step, my mind flashed back to the laughter, the music, the endless possibilities of childhood left behind. I longed for those light-hearted summers when Lily would braid daisies into my hair, laughing carefree as we shared secrets beneath the sprawling oak tree in our backyard. This urgency felt like an erasure of those memories, as if the darkness within was ready to smudge the vibrance of who she had been, of who we had been together. Finally, we reached a rundown house with blaring music seeping out into the night. The front yard throbbed with bodies swaying. Pulses beat in sync with the rhythm that seemed to echo through my bones. Each face we passed was young, but each was also marred by something I couldn't quite define. Inside, Caleb said, motioning toward the door. I hesitated, my feet rooted to the ground. Trust me, it's where the larger group is. That's where she'll be. With a deep breath, I pushed forward, feeling the heaviness of dread mingle with a fragile flicker of hope. But just as we neared the entrance, I spotted a flash of Lily's familiar hair through the crowd. My heart leapt, only to crash when I noticed the arms that clung around her shoulders. An unrecognizable boy with a mischievous smile that felt wrong to my gut. Lily, I called out, urgency spilling into my voice, but before I could sprint forward, she turned, her face illuminated for just a moment, and in that blink of an eye, the truth was stark. The joy behind her eyes was gone, replaced with a haze that masked everything I had ever seen in her, a look of confusion and something darker. I saw her smile falter, and a sensation washed over me that felt like betrayal and loss, all intertwined. Lily, please don't, I pleaded as dread gripped me, paralyzing. The laughter from the crowd rose, enveloping our fragile moment in chaos, and in that dreadful second, Lily's gaze shifted away from me, toward the boy's inviting grin. The connection blooming between them, rooted in something I couldn't define, felt like a knife twisting deeper into my heart. Staring into the void, I registered the world spinning around me, the laughter harsher and more distorted than ever before. Something twisted in my throat, an impending sense of loss tightening as I realized she was slipping further away, and time was no longer on our side. The darkness around us didn't just feel like a night filled with youthful errors, it felt like the encroaching embrace of despair. As I drew a breath deep down into the pit of my stomach, bracing myself for the worst, a haunting question surfaced. Was I truly ready for what was about to unfold? And just then, out of the crowd, I felt movement at my side. It was Sarah, her expression grave as she whispered, "We have to get her out of here. It's not just a party." I heard whispers, "Drugs are involved. This isn't a game." The dread that had clutched my heart morphed into a visceral panic, coursing through my veins as I realized this was the moment when the illusion of childhood shattered. We had come to save her, yet the road ahead was still shrouded in shadows, and I couldn't shake the feeling that once we reached her, nothing would be the same again. Our next move carried with it a weight I could scarcely fathom. I took one last look at the swirling energy surrounding us, the laughter, the noise, the fleeting moments of joy, with an ice-cold certainty washing over me. I'd fought to keep our family together. The price of this battle might be far greater than I'd ever imagined. The music poured out of the house like a heavy smoke, wrapping around us, suffocating. My heart hammered in my chest as I fought to tear my gaze away from Lily, the girl I had known since the day she was born, vibrant, full of life, and now just a silhouette amidst a storm. "Sarah, we have to get her," I whispered, panic chasing the words. Before it's too late. Sarah was peering into the crowd, her brow furrowed with focus. "Oh, go around the back. You keep her in sight. Do whatever it takes to stall." Before I could respond, she slipped away into the crowd, moving with purpose, and I was left standing on the precipice of fear. The tightness in my chest deepened. I felt like I was about to burst apart. I edged forward, forcing my way through the throng of bodies that were pulsing to the pulsing beat, searching, always searching for the face of my sister. Each moment felt like stretching a rubber band. It would snap back and cut me if I wasn't careful. Lily was still there, her form now partly obscured by the boys surrounding her, their laughter mingling with the bass of the music. I could see the familiar rise and fall of her shoulders, a reminder of who she used to be, but what echoed back at me was unrecognizable. I struggled to breathe as the crowd surged and pressed, the noise enveloping me like a suffocating wave. "Lily!" I shouted again, raising my voice over the clamor. "Lily, can you hear me?" She turned ever so slightly, her eyes distant and cloudy, a far cry from the sister I had so desperately wanted to protect. "Come on, let's go," I pleaded, pushing through the bodies that seemed determined to keep me from my sister. Suddenly, the boys surrounding Hera, a dark-haired figure who was too close, too imposing, stepped between us, his grin wide and predatory. "She's having fun. Why would she want to leave?" Something in me flared with anger, a protective instinct roaring to life. "You don't know her. This isn't fun." The boy laughed lightly, dismissing me with an indifferent wave as if I were just another party crasher. He leaned closer to Lily, whispering something in her ear, and for a moment, she looked captivated, enchanted by whatever dangerous thrill he offered. The warmth of anger ignited into a raw heat, and in that moment, I didn't recognize the girl who could laugh at the smallest of things. For a heartbeat I felt alone, the weight of my concern crushing me. What happened to my sister who would run back to me, arms open wide? Pushed back by the crowd, I found myself at the edge of the huddle, but I didn't give up. I searched the room for any sign, any hint of Sarah. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught my eye, and I turned to see Sarah, but she wasn't just standing there. She was talking to someone who stood outside the party's chaotic bubble. A figure stepped out from the shadows, his build sturdy yet unassuming. A pang of recognition struck me. Daniel, my childhood friend. He had always been a steady presence, a protector in tough times, and now somehow he was here, moving towards Sarah with an urgency that made my heart race. "What are you doing here?" I mouthed, needing to know he had come for legitimate reasons, not the chaos that unfolded behind me. In his eyes something flickered, sadness, determination, a depth of understanding that left me unsteady. Just as he reached me, Sarah was back at my side, her expression fierce but fearful, as if she had wrestled with a decision much deeper than our current predicament. "That I told Daniel about Lily," she said, her voice trembling with strained resolve. "He might know where we can get help." My heart quickened, a mix of dread and cautious hope ignited in my breast. "Help? From whom?" Before she could answer, Daniel gave me a firm but gentle nod, the look in his eyes urging me to trust him. My uncle knows some people. They might have some answers. But you have to be prepared. This isn't just about getting Lily out of here. The weight of his words bore down on me, and I could feel my chest constricting again. My sister's safety wasn't simply a matter of extracting her from the party. It was a plunge into the depths of something hidden, a battle much more profound than I'd anticipated. What do you mean? I pushed, my heart quickening at the implications. They can help, but it involves doing things we may not be ready for. The darkness around her isn't just the party. It's much deeper, and if we want to pull her out, we may have to confront more than just her choices. We have to face our own, Daniel replied softly, with an air of calm that struck me as bizarre in the current turmoil. But I didn't ask for this, I stammered, a wave of frustration fighting against the encroaching shadows that seemed to thicken around me. I just want my sister back. I thought I could save her. Then let's save her, Sarah urged, her eyes now aflame with a mix of anger and fear. But we can't ignore the reality of the situation. It's not just her choices. It's everything behind them, our family, our responsibilities. You know what I mean? With the weight of their words settling in, I glimpsed the shattered pieces of my life, the fractured moments that had transpired silently in the background, the debts no one spoke of, the whispers of shame that lingered. I had expected to save Lily, but it was becoming clear now that saving was only the beginning. Anything less than confronting our own truths would strand us in a darkness from which none of us could emerge. My breath hitched as reality settled in. My tears wouldn't just flow from fear for Lily, but also for the choices we'd all avoided, the danger that had snaked its way silently into our family like a thief in the night. I took a step back, desperate to breathe and collect my thoughts, but the music was still pulsing, and the bodies still swayed with reckless abandon. As I tried to will my composure back, Daniel leaned in closer. We need to move now. Before I could respond, another commotion erupted from the party. Loud laughter morphed into panic screams, a crashing sound reverberating through the walls of the house. I turned sharply, dread flooding my senses. Something unimaginable was about to happen, and with a precise twist of fate, our world would be thrown into chaos. Lily, I called out one last time, the weight of every emotion crashing over me, believing that whatever happened next would change everything. The stakes were impossibly high, and I was left standing at the edge of the unknown, heart racing with a mix of terror and hope. I looked at Sarah and Daniel, their faces taut with purpose, and knew in my gut that the dark truths we were about to uncover would either bind us together or tear us apart forever. And just as I stepped forward to face that chaos, the door of the house burst open, and a figure stumbled out, drenched in shadows, a face that turned the horror of this night into a shattering reality, as every last thread of our family was suddenly at stake. The world around me fell silent as the figure stumbled into view, illuminated by the flickering lights of the party. Time seemed to stretch and curl, distorting the very air I breathed, as my heart sank into the pit of my stomach. It felt like being pulled into a whirlpool, each moment an agonizing slow-motion struggle against despair. It was my mother. Her face, usually framed with warmth and light, was drawn and pale, the faint remnants of hope replaced by anguish. I felt my body freeze, every instinct telling me to rush to her, yet tethered to the spot with the weight of uncertainty. What was she doing here? Why now of all times? Mom! I shouted, my voice breaking through the noise of the party, cutting through the facade of noise and laughter. Instinctively I started toward her, but Daniel grabbed my arm, his grip firm. Wait, he urged, urgency lacing his tone. Look at her. I hesitated, my heart racing as I processed his words. My mother stood like a ghost, trembling in the shadows, shifting her gaze between me and Sarah. There was something about the way she held herself, the way dread perched on her shoulders like a dark shroud. Mom, what happened? I moved closer despite Daniel's restraining grip, drawn in by a force that felt magnetic yet terrifying. With great effort, she took a step forward, her voice barely a whisper. I need to talk to you, please. I glanced nervously at the party, the thumping droplets of music behind me, pulsing and crowded, spinning out of my personal chaos. Is it about Lily? My mother nodded slowly, tears pooling in her eyes, yet she seemed determined to keep her composure. The fear of what she might say crept back in. Was it about the debts piling up like fallen leaves? The unspoken burdens we'd carried silently together? Could it all be connected? Everything has gotten worse, she admitted, her voice cracking as she stepped fully into the light. We're in deeper than I could ever explain. It's about Lily. And our family. Fear surged through me, mixed with fury. What do you mean? She's in there, caught up with those people. I gestured wildly toward the house, my frustration spilling over. How could you let it get to this point? We should have stopped this before it started. My mother winced, the weight in her eyes deepening as she breathed in sharply. You think I haven't tried to protect her? I have. Day by day, I've fought for her. But she paused, collecting her breath as if each word were a stone pushing her down. But we just don't have the resources anymore. The money, the support. The help. Why didn't you tell me? I demanded, my voice rising. We could have figured it out together. No. Her voice overwhelmed, her desperation pouring forth as if the dam had burst. I didn't want to burden you. I thought you could focus on your life, your dreams. I thought, maybe if we just waited she would come around. But I was wrong. Somewhere behind me, the laughter grew louder, the revelers oblivious to the crumbling world we stood upon. I could no longer bear the noise, the oblivion of the party juxtaposed with the reality of my family's unraveling. Mom, maybe if we all united. I started before my mother shot me a sharp look, the kind that demanded silence and understanding. No, sweetie, she said, her voice soft but strong with conviction. This isn't just about us helping Lily out of this mess with debts or friends. It's deeper than that. She needs more than just our intervention. And I fear we need to make some hard choices. There may be things we have to let go of to save her. My heart plummeted. What are you saying? The house, she whispered hoarsely, tears coursing down her cheeks. I don't want to say this, but we might have to sell it. I can't pay off what she owes. You can't be tied down by the weight of it all. The creditors, her voice broke, and I could see her fear spilling out. You don't understand how deep this debt goes. It's like a spiderweb we've been trapped in. And it's tightening around us. If we want to save her, my breath hitched. I felt the ground shift, sending cracks through my reality. The thought of losing our home, of selling the one place where memories of laughter and warmth reside at it felt monstrous to consider that kind of sacrifice. But this is our family. This house has history, it has spirit. You can't just throw it away. Sometimes there's a greater sacrifice to be made, my mother said, anguish in her eyes. If it means saving her from a life defined by chaos and darkness, we must decide what family truly means. As if to punctuate her words, a deafening crash erupted from within the party, shattering the remaining fragments of our already delicate world. The music dulled into a confused roar of panic and fear. My eyes darted to the door, tension snaking down my spine. Lily! I screamed again, but this time it was a desperate plea. A rush of adrenaline charging through me. We have to get her out now. Please, we need to talk, my mother tried, but I was already moving, propelled by the urgency that filled the air. Together, Sarah said, gripping my hand tightly. I looked at her, our eyes locking in a silent agreement of determination. Daniel stepped beside us, and for a moment, we formed a solid front against the unfolding nightmare. But as we charged toward the chaos, I felt the uncertainty gnawing at my insides. What awaited us inside the house? I had braced myself for a battle to save my sister, but what truths were about to be unveiled about our family? In the chaos there was no turning back. I was ready to face what lay ahead, but as the laughter morphed into terrified screams, one thought burned within me. Were we ready for the choices we might have to make? The weight would be crushing, the consequences unimaginable. But it was already too late. We were all caught in this web, and now we had to unravel it, no matter the cost. The moment we stepped through the door, it felt like plunging into cold water. The warmth of the gathering was replaced by a dense atmosphere of confusion and dread. Voices clashed, panic unfurling in chaotic whispers. I scanned the room, searching for Lily. Then a piercing shriek cut through the wild cacophony, the unmistakable sound of my sister's voice. My heart leapt in my chest, ignited by the familiar pang of anxious love tempered with fear. Lily! I shouted again, fueled by instinct as we pushed through the throng. I strained against the weight of uncertainty clinging to me, trying to piece together the fragmented whispers that danced past my ears. She's on the floor. Someone call 911. Why is she like this? Time seemed to elongate, and adrenaline surged through me, urging my feet to move faster. Daniel's reassuring presence beside me provided some comfort, a tangible tether amid the chaos. While Sarah's hand felt steady and Minnie an anchor against the storm, we found her. She lay sprawled on the ground, her once bright eyes now glazed, shadows of something darker lurking beneath the surface. The lifeline that had once connected us was fraying, threatening to snap altogether. I dropped to my knees beside her, brushing hair away from her pale face, my fingers trembling with a mixture of fear and love. "Lily, can you hear me?" I whispered, desperation climbing like a vine around my throat. Her eyelids fluttered before settling, but she didn't respond. In that instant I felt shattered, suffocated by the weight of everything unresolved between us. Around us, the partygoers began to disperse, their laughter replaced by an urgency to exit, as if they were retreating from the very core of our family's disintegration. The room pulsed with a heaviness, each gasp and call for help sharpening the jagged edges of my panic. "Stay with me," I breathed, rubbing her hand gently, trying to summon back the light in her eyes. "We're here. We're going to fix this. You'll be okay." But instead of a reassurance, my mother's shaky voice broke through the riot of emotions, creating an echo within the turmoil of my heart. "She's been using again," my mom murmured, as if afraid that saying it out loud might somehow make it more real. Her expression was one of defeat, a stark contrast to my furious desperation. "Using?" I echoed, disbelief taking root. "What do you mean? How long has it been?" "Mom, we need to call an ambulance," Daniel asserted, urgency sharpening his tone, but my focus remained on my sister, me heart racing, matching the frantic rhythm of the confusion around us. My mother didn't speak, her silence echoing louder than her words ever could. Instead, she took a shaky step closer to Lily, kneeling down beside me. "I'm so sorry," she murmured, tears spilling down her cheeks, the agony raw and palpable. "I thought she was getting better after the incident last month. I thought we could fix this without more help." "Fix this?" I barked, my anger brimming over as I turned toward her. "You call this fixing it? Look at her. This isn't just about her. This is about our family. What have we been doing all this time? Why didn't we face this together?" "Because I thought I could handle it," she cried, her anguish resurfacing, holding all the unbearable weight of a mother's fears. "But I failed." And now she swallowed hard, choking back the words she didn't want to say. "Now what?" I pressed, each second feeling like a slowing heartbeat. "Now we're losing her," she stammered. "If we don't do something drastic, we could all lose her forever." The noise of the party faded away, leaving space for the realization that hung in the air between us, broken and heavy, threaded with desperation. "Drastic? Like what?" I challenged, unable to mask the fear in my voice. "Maybe a treatment center," my mother suggested softly. "Somewhere she can heal away from everything, the people." The depths the words slashed through me like a knife, deeper than I could have anticipated. A treatment center came tethered with a price, a burden I didn't want to think about. And what about our home? Our lives? I bit back. "What are we willing to sacrifice?" "Everything," she cried, her voice raw and primal. "If that's what it takes to save her. Don't you see? This isn't just about money anymore. It's about Lily's life, and she may not get another chance." Just then, the distant sound of sirens became our lifeline, urgency threading through the chaos. In that moment, I finally looked into my mother's eyes and saw the same sharp fear that flickered within my own, a reflection of the bond we shared, as painful and beautiful as blood itself. But just as I managed to absorb that depth of commitment, Lily jolted awake, her eyes wide and wild, searching. "Where am I?" she gasped, fear wrapping around her as she tried to push herself off the ground. At that moment, the ground shifted again. The sound of sirens drew nearer, but so did the buried truths. What had we been blind to? If we opened this door, was there no way back? "Please stay with us," I called out, my heart hammering against the breaking point of dread and hope. But just as I thought I could hold on, another reality crashed in, one that could change everything. "Lily, we might have to sell the house." And that was it. As the sirens wailed outside, my world teetered on the precipice of chaos, held by nothing more than fragile threads. The weight of what was to come and the choices that lay ahead threatened to suffocate me, all while I could only wonder if we could truly save her from this darkness, or if it would consume us along the way. The sound of the sirens fading into the night felt like an ominous clock counting down to an unavoidable confrontation. As I knelt beside Lily, my heart heavy with uncertainty, I looked into her eyes, those once lively orbs now clouded by shadows of confusion and fear. For a fleeting moment, the chaotic party dimmed into the background, and all that mattered was reconnecting the frayed ties of our family. "Lily, please listen to me," I urged, my voice trembling as the weight of my own anguish pressed down upon my shoulders. Her gaze flitted around the room, searching, lost. "You're not alone. We're here for you. We're fighting for you." Slowly, she blinked, the flicker of recognition glazing her features. "I'm so sorry," she murmured, her voice cracking like glass. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." In shining moments of silence between the screams of the party, the world faded to a stark hush, a fragile bubble, where connection could be made. "Lily, change can be painful, but you can still choose. We all can." "Yes, we can," my mom chimed, moving closer, her eyes a mix of fierce determination and vulnerable love. "We have to make hard choices, but we can do this together. We want to help you." "That's the point," I added, my heart racing as I took her hand in mine, squeezing gently. "If necessary, we can sell the house, and even that wouldn't matter. What's more important is you finding your way back to us before the darkness takes hold completely." As the sirens approached, the pressure of emotions surged and tangled within me, fighting against the urge to retreat. "Mom's right. Sometimes letting go is how we hold on," I said, searching Lily's gaze for any glimpse of the sister I loved, the vibrant spirit I feared we were losing. Tears began to trickle down her cheeks, and my heart ached at the sight, so much sorrow packed into those glistening trails, evidence of the battle waging within. "But I can't, I don't know how," she cried, desperation tightening each syllable into a painful knot. "We'll guide you," Sarah chimed in, her voice steady with resolve. "It's going to be difficult, but you don't have to face this alone anymore. Together, we'll conquer everything standing in your way, even if it means facing the monster of our past." The air thickened with possibility as the promise of unity hovered above us. I could see the glimmer of hope return to Lily's eyes, inching forward like the dawn breaking through a darkened sky. But just then, a sudden rush of bodies burst around us, and a group of partygoers swept in like a tidal wave. Powered by adrenaline, I turned instinctively, ready to shield my sister from the unrelenting chaos that sought to drag her back into the abyss. "Not her. She's not going back," I shouted, voice cracking against the roar of the crowd. A knot of panic surged through me as the feelings from the past threatened to overwhelm. "To hell with this. We can't let anyone take her." Suddenly, one of the boys from the party, Caleb, appeared, his demeanor shifting from carefree to concerned, his momentarily careless expression replaced by trepidation. "What's going on?" he asked, confusion dancing in his eyes. "Lily needs help. We're all on this together. It's not time to run anymore," I barked, my voice sharp like splintered glass, fueled by the realization that the time for action had finally come. As if in response, the siren's wails crescendoed, cascading through the surrounding walls. I turned, searching the whipped-up chaos for my mother, Sarah, and the grounded resolve I felt tethered to. Together we could confront this storm, rip apart the chaos, illuminate our shared heart, and face our fears head-on. Stepping forward, each of us united in body, heart, and soul, we forged a path toward the unknown, piecing together the fractured fragments of our familial bond. And as the noise of the party reverberated around us, it became clear. In embracing vulnerability and confronting our demons, we could find our way home, wherever that may lead. "Let's do this together," I said softly, squeezing Lily's hand, the warmth of our family's past merging with the tentative hope for a better future. "We have each other's backs, always." Then, with an unwavering fire ignited in my heart, I could finally feel Ida truth welling within me. Sometimes salvation means letting go of everything you thought you once knew, only to embrace the unknown road ahead. As we stood together on the precipice of change, the future glimmered like stars breaking through a stormy night, whispering of possibilities yet untold, and in that powerful moment, despite the uncertainty that lay ahead, I knew one undeniable truth. No matter the weight of the past, we could carve out our own destiny, woven tightly together through love, sacrifice, and the indomitable spirit of family. "Together," I murmured, filled with a profound resolve. And just like that, against the roar of the chaos, we took our first step toward healing, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. Together.